Well, it once attracted famous musicians and politicians and stands as a testament to what one Denver neighborhood used to look like. Casa Mayan is one of the oldest homes in our town with a rich history woven into the fabric of Denver's Hispanic community. But it all would have disappeared if not for the efforts of a lot of people and the memories of one family. Here's 9 News reporter Maya Rodriguez.
It was a fascinating place to grow up. A childhood of unbelievable. Just wonderful.
The memories still seem so fresh for two sisters who once called this place home.
We'll always have memories of this house.
The house is known as Casa Mayan. It sits on the 9th Street Historic Park in the heart of the Auraria campus. All that's left of a vibrant, thriving neighborhood. 90-year-old Marta Gonzalez Alcaro and 96-year-old Belen Gonzalez Aranda, along with their 5 other siblings, grew up in Casa Mayan.
A lot of people don't understand that this was a very sustainable neighborhood.
To understand what happened here, you have to go back, way back, to the 19th century. The clapboard wood house is one of the oldest in Denver, originally built in 1872 by William Smedley, a Pennsylvania dentist who moved here. Years later, in 1926, the Gonzalezes moved in, and the surrounding Auraria community was thriving with families from all over.
We didn't think anything about it.
You know, everybody
we had an Irish family across the street, a German family, English family.
So, and we never thought of being different. We were all, in the same boat.
It really exemplifies America because it was a history of immigrants from all over.
Gregorio Alcaro is a historian and founder of the nonprofit Auraria Casa Mayan Heritage. Marta Gonzalez Alcaro is his mother, and he remembers parties and get-togethers at Casa Mayan.
And I couldn't separate my family's history through the history of Auraria, and that's how I became interested in learning more about the various families and the stories that they have to tell.
Those stories include hardship, the Depression, and later, World War II. But once the war was over, the family entered a new venture. On the first floor of their house, they opened one of the first Hispanic-owned Mexican-American restaurants in Denver, calling it Casa Mayan.
We had a mother that could make us meals out of nothing.
And those skills were put to use in the restaurant, which also became a cultural center. President Harry Truman ate here in 1948, and through the 50s and 60s, entertainers like Jose Feliciano, Joan Baez, and Judy Collins all made stops at Casa Mayan.
And we always had an open house situation here all the time because we had musicians and poets and, entertainers coming all the time.
But those times would not last. The Gonzalez family continued running the restaurant until it closed in 1973. By then, the Denver Urban Renewal Authority had designated the entire neighborhood as a future site of the Auraria Higher Education Center.
It was a loss. It was a big loss emotionally and, for the whole family.
The philosophy was that we needed an urban renewal in a lot of the older communities, and Auraria was just one of many ethnic communities that went through this challenge of displacement.
Despite some community opposition, in 1969, Denver voters approved a $6 million bond issue that would help create what would become the Auraria campus. 155 families and 237 businesses were relocated. Some never bounced back from it. Bulldozers moved in, but preservationists raced to save historic homes, including Casa Mayan. The state eventually created the 9th Street Historic Park. Now, there's an effort to tell people who visit Casa Mayan that it's not just another building.
And this is why these homes were very special to the Mexican Americans and people from Mexico. They went through incredible struggles through their journeys from Mexico.
For the Gonzalez sisters, those struggles are sweetened by happy memories whenever they come home to Casa Mayan.
All my family, they all appear somehow or other. They're all here, as far as I'm concerned. Everything reminds me of one of them or all of them. And it all came from living in this wonderful home.
With photojournalist Manny Sotelo, Maya Rodriguez, 9 News.
If you would like some more information about Casa Mayan, you can go to our website at 9news.com. And really, you get a chance, you should go down and check out that 9th Street historical neighborhood there on the Aurora campus. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Our Hispanic Heritage Series. Today we meet a woman who came to the U.S. from Mexico when she was only 12 years old. She studied hard to become a chemical engineer, but after a while she felt the itch to head back to her roots.
You've already sampled the chemistry, I'd like to point out.
I have sampled a couple times.
Delicious. What came next was a culinary journey that prompted a career change. Belinda Leon has her story.
I like to measure everything that I need before the cooking. Like if you're gonna do an experiment in the lab.
You can't make salsa without science.
Women are doing a lot of chemistry in the kitchen. They might not know it, but they are doing it. Like the tomatoes, when they are raw, they taste different than when you cook them in a comal. You start producing starch to sugars. You're caramelizing the tomatoes, so there's a sweetness that gets formed. And it tastes different too. I mean, it's amazing.
Before Carmen worked in a kitchen, she worked at a refinery. She's a chemical engineer and a professor at the University of Colorado. But along the way, she felt like she was missing an ingredient in her life: passion.
And I'm like, so what is life about? You know, it's having a reason to wake up in the morning and knowing that what you do makes a difference.
In 2013, she traveled to Oaxaca, Mexico to relearn her family's ways of cooking.
So when I cook the salsa, I am connecting to the natives, like the Indians where I come from in Mexico, the Aztecs or the Mayans, and I'm not sure, maybe the Yaquis. They used to roast their tomatoes outside in the fire, in the comals.
She also learned how to make mole, a Mexican cooking sauce that contains about 30 ingredients, including bananas and cacao nibs, each prepared individually.
They all have different cooking rates, and they all have different sizes, so one will burn.
After 5 hours of roasting, soaking, grinding, blending, and sautéing, Carmen and her helpers are almost done. Generations of her family's recipes are poured into jars and prepared to share with others.
When I try the Oaxacan mole, selling it at the farmer's market, it's very special. It goes really well with chicken or turkey because it's like the completion. I really want to pass on what was passed to me. It's kind of special that this will become somebody's dinner. It's remarkable.
Until the business takes off, Carmen will keep teaching at CU, where students will hear more about her kitchen chemistry.
They're gonna hear so much about my mole business. The pH, I'm gonna be talking about, you know, like the salsas. Did you know?
With photojournalist Manny Sotelo,
Which one has a lower pH, tomatillos or tomatoes?
Belén de Leon, 9 News.
You know, I don't mind what the pH levels are as long as it's tasty. And this definitely, it is so good. Each week, Carmen sells about 90 jars of her mole and salsas at the Boulder County Farmers Market. The mole is the top seller because it's more difficult to make, she says, but we do have some of her salsa here to taste. I've been munching on this for the past
It's great, isn't it?
5 minutes.
It has just a little edge to it.
It really is. It's not too spicy. It's like, you know, you say that the hottest condiment that you can
Ketchup.
ketchup, which is not spicy.
Even
at all.
that's a little over the top for me, but this is
But I
really
can do
good.
the hot stuff, and this is kind of right in the middle, so
Yeah.
it's really tasty.
You and Kim Christensen can
I
do
know.
that firehouse stuff, but
I
this is sweet and just a little tangy at the same time. It's great. You can find a quick link to Hispanic Heritage Month on 9news.com, including the link to Carmen's website, which has, by the way, several terrific recipes. I don't know if they're all as good as that, but if they are excellent.
So good.
We'll be right back.
Let's talk Hispanic Heritage Month.
Let's talk about that. I'm really happy to bring you this story because, well, within the 5 Points neighborhood, there's a radio station called KUVO, and it's usually known as the sound of jazz. But on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., it's Spanish music that takes over the airwaves. So here's more about Canción Mexicana.
How do you keep traditions alive?
There we go.
This radio station has kept the tradition of Hispanic music alive for 29 years.
You're listening to Canción Mexicana. This is Jazz 89 KUVO in Denver.
We have grandchildren of original listeners to Canción Mexicana, and many of them say, you know, I grew up listening to this music in a family environment with my parents, with my abuelos. And now I am passing the baton to my children.
Cumbias, tejano, and mariachi are more difficult to find on mainstream radio, making Canción Mexicana even more popular.
It has become the most listened to program in the state of Colorado on Sunday mornings, and this includes commercial radio.
Studio Flow, named after founder Flo Hernandez, has shelves and shelves of music that listeners call in to request.
Already, thank you, Marlene. It's a blast to be on the air, playing the music of the community of Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado, and it's great musicians, great music, and a lot of fun.
To have fun, another reason why listeners tune in.
I really love hosting Canción Mexicana on Sundays because you get to dance. I was telling somebody it's probably my only exercise for the week, but it's great.
We get people dancing in their kitchens and we get them cooking up, frijoles and menudo.
And for many, when that familiar tune plays, it brings back good memories.
What's so special about this music to me is that it reminds me of home. My mother is Mexicana, and I heard her singing all these songs, or we'd play it on the radio. I have to say I have a special place in my heart for people like Little Joe, y La Familia, and David Ligarza, and Emilio.
Traditions that will bind older generations with new and help these oldies stay goodies for a long time.
It's part of getting up Sunday morning and having breakfast. It's, part of growing up and being alive and well in Denver and the surrounding area.
With photojournalist Manny Sotelo, Belén de Leon, 9 News.
And now Ryan's craving menudo. He's like, I want menudo now.
Perfect Sunday morning music. That makes me want menudo.
Oh, yeah. So KUVO is currently holding their fall membership drive. Over 93% of KUVO's annual budget comes from members, business sponsors, and friends who donate. So if you want to help support this public radio station, you can get the information on 9news.com. And once you're finished watching 9 News, maybe you could turn up the radio. Those are the best memories I have of my mom. That's how I learned how to dance in the kitchen, listening to this kind of music while she was making tortillas. So I can kind of relate to what Yolanda saying and how it brings back all of those memories. It's just very special.
Oh, I can definitely see that. Belén, thank you so much for
Great story.
sharing that.
Love
Thank you.
We'll be right back with some of your sports.
It is a remote place, rich in Colorado history. No one lives in Picket Wire Canyon anymore near La Junta in southeast Colorado, but it was once home to a whole community with a melting pot of cultures, including a very strong Hispanic influence.
Yeah, in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, 9 News reporter Maya Rodriguez and photographer Manny Sotelo took a rugged journey into a place that not many get to see.
It's a desolate place, seemingly devoid of human life. Along the Purgatory River is the largest known site for dinosaur tracks in North America. But look closer, and you start to see the unmistakable mark of man.
There was a real ethnic mix in this area.
On the rock walls here, rock art known as petroglyphs, carved into boulders more than 1,000 years ago by predecessors to Native American tribes. The area is known as Picket Wire Canyon, a name that comes from the corrupted, anglicized version of the word purgatorio, or purgatory. It got that name when Spanish conquistadors died here without last rites more than 400 years ago.
Because they didn't have the benefit of clergy, they couldn't go on to to heaven, and they were stuck in purgatory.
The name stuck, but more people came here anyway, mostly for one reason.
It's got the Purgatory River, which is one of the few perennial water sources in southeast Colorado.
It's hard to tell from what you can see now, but at the height of its population in the 1880s, between 400 and 500 people lived here in Picket Wire Canyon, among them the Lopez family. After the Homestead Act of 1862, settlers from all over ventured here, lured by the idea of owning 160 acres. Anglo-Americans and Hispanics, like the Lopez family, lived side by side. The Lopezes came up from New Mexico in the 1870s and eventually built this church, known as the Dolores Mission.
It's not as a mission as you would traditionally think of as a mission. What it is a Catholic church with a cemetery around it.
The cemetery, a resting place for nearly a dozen people, mostly Hispanic children under the age of 3, like Eugenio Padilla, who lived only 7 days back in 1899.
some of the headstones are very ornate and very elaborate, so you can tell that the folks here, even with these children, spent a lot of time and care to give them a proper burial.
The headstones are in good condition, but as people left the canyon over time, many of the old homes succumbed to the elements. The U.S. Forest Service acquired the area in the early 1990s and oversees it as part of the Comanche National Grassland. They have since done some work to preserve what's left here, but they say there's more that can be done.
It's really a kind of a special place.
In Picket Wire Canyon, Maya Rodriguez, 9 News.
Picket Wire Canyon is accessible by foot and bicycle, and during certain times of the year by car. For more information, go to our website, 9news.com.